Good morning. How are we all? Um, so this week's question of the week came from a lady in my circle community. So I'm just trying to find all my notes and everything. Yeah, it came from a lady in my circle group. And I'm going to read you the question. So I've noticed this week that things in my life have been expanding in a good way. But today, I wasn't aware of any shitty committee thinking, but my nervous system and my body felt really on edge and uneasy. I'm wondering if it's an old anxious pattern showing up to protect me, but it's not making any sense. And now I'm just feeling a bit all over the place. Um, so the lady in question has been thinking, great, I feel like I'm expanding. I feel like I'm unlearning, I'm awakening my feminine. I feel like things are good. And what's happened is, oh, I haven't got me. I don't even know if you can hear me. If you could hear me. I forgot to put my headphones in. I just realized with the dog barking. Let me know if you could hear me. I can't see on there. Let me just check. Technical issue, bear with. And thinking issue, bear with. Oh, that was me. So hopefully you can hear me. Anyway, let me go back to the question. Yes, so the lady in question, she's in my circle. She's been seeing some things around feminine awakening, understanding her nature. I teach a lot about nervous system work in there, body stuff, and essentially what's happened is she's been feeling more open and more grounded, and then all of a sudden she has had a nervous system response that's put her on edge, that's made her feel like she's on edge. And she's like, I'm not having any thinking, so what's happened? Which is interesting, right? So if we are to understand the principles way of looking at it, it's like I have some thinking that is causing me to feel a certain way. And often what's happened in my experience is that we don't necessarily know or have awareness of unconscious thought. And this is important because if you are in the principles community and you have an understanding of thought creates feeling, and it's in the feeling that I know. So this bit's true. It's in the feeling, not that not that any of it isn't true. What I'm saying is there's like a deeper layer to this. If I have an awareness that feeling, my clue is in the feeling. So if I've got some shitty committee thinking going on, I'm going to have a feeling of like activation in my nervous system. If I don't know that, and you have never come across the principles, what I'm saying is probably not going to make much sense. And you might just kind of ask yourself, why do I suddenly feel shit? And this is what happens. People will say things like, the sun is shining. No wonder I feel good because the sun is shining, which is like something outside of us, which is making me feel good. Or they might say, I feel shit this morning and I don't know why. And then their brain searches for possibilities as to why they might feel shit. What is missing in that understanding is unconscious thought. And unconscious thought takes a huge amount of um well, it takes 90% of your thought is in unconscious thought, unconscious programming. And most of us have no idea what is running the show. A bit like in The Wizard of Oz, you've got like the wizard behind the curtain. That's essentially like your brain. You've got unconscious beliefs and happenings in your system, in your nervous system, in your body that are running the show behind the curtain. And we are oblivious to that. And unless you start doing this deeper work to sort of uncover and make the unconscious conscious. So in the lady's question from my circle group, she's heard some things, she's starting to open, she's seeing things, she's already come from the principles community. And so there's a kind of disconnect with like, I wasn't really having any thinking, and yet my nervous system is activated. So then what's happened is it now feels a bit off. She feels a bit all over the place because it's not making any sense to her. So this is also what can happen if we don't have an understanding of these sort of deeper nuances of nervous system activation, unconscious thought, stories, narratives that we live within, paradigms that we live within. It's going to like make your brain go like, let me try and find out what's wrong here, rather than sitting in the space of what my body is trying to tell me. And women are so disconnected from their body that they go to the head. Now there's something in the body. There's like women need to go down and in, down and in, to understand the messages of the body. So there would be something in this lady's psyche, somatic experience that is wanting to be felt, wanting to be seen, wanting to be acknowledged. And we so often go very quickly from the body to the head. If unconsciousness creates often these experiences in the body, in the nervous system, two terriers was just such a terrible idea. It really was. If unconsciousness creates our thoughts, our beliefs, then consciousness transmutes it into itself. Hence why we can have possibly and potentially an activation in our nervous system that we don't intellectually understand as to why it's happening. Now, I personally lived in this state of anxiety and activation for much of my life without conscious awareness. I had no idea why I was being triggered left, right, and center. I had no idea why I kept kind of swirling and spiraling up against sadness and insecurity and self-concern. Like I just had no awareness. And I worked in this. I was a mental health specialist. So what you have to kind of reflect on is firstly, can I get grounded enough in this present moment to understand the signals of my body? Can I start to learn interoception? Can I start to discern between what my mind tells me is possibly going on and what the actual truth and the reality is in this present moment? Because if I get activated, there's sure as shit going to be some unconscious thing, some unconscious hook that's taken our body into a state that's coming from the past. And we're now in the present and we're trying to make it mean something. And then, of course, we have all sorts of thinking about it, which takes us down into a kind of basement-like experience of heavy thinking and more dysregulation. The number one thing I'd say to you is if in that moment you can just connect in with your body and kind of ask it, like, what is it that you need me to know? What's going on? If you don't get any answers necessarily, move, start moving, mobilizing, doing something to move that activation through your system. So if you can hear my two dogs, always at the time that I do these, they start like growling at each other. trying to ground myself now because the noise feels so loud to me. If in that moment you can move, if you don't necessarily get the answer because you're so used to going into your head, move, because everything wants to move through you. Everything wants to move through you. There'll be something that has you feel unsafe in a moment or out of control in a moment, or some remembrance of something. But a female body speaks to her. And if you can just start to entrain yourself to that reality, that truth, you'll probably find that you spend less time trying to figure it out with your conscious mind, and you become more attuned to your own somatic experience in the world. And I can't tell you how helpful that will be to ground you in the present. Now, a lot of the work that we do in the circle is around these pieces. I do a monthly transmission every month. There's like loads of resources in the circle. It's only $24.99 a month. You'd be very welcome in there. And I do group coaching calls. And we just had one this morning, which was brilliant. And the theme that came up in the circle this morning was friendships. And it was so interesting to talk to these different women about friendships and what was coming up for them. And we try and thread it back to see what the unconscious belief is that's running the show, that's behind the curtain, that's pulling the strings, that then that sort of the consequences of which we feel in our body, and then we go straight to our head. And we repress so much of that kind of pain and experience and put on a mask and crack on with it, or numb out in, whether we're scrolling or we're eating or we're drinking or we are, whatever it is we're doing, it doesn't matter the thing. There's always going to be something underneath. And as you do that, if you came into the circle and I could start you on that process and get my little metaphorical hands on you, you would start to awaken to the truth of who you are in your power and understand how much power you have. So I hope that helps, anonymous person who sent in the question. Thank you for letting me do it on this question of the week. If anyone has any questions for me for next week, please send them to me or send me a message on Facebook. And yeah, lots of love to you all.